Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Thank you for coming. This is our first nutrition talk, first of many, hopefully. There's been a few people registered that didn't attend, but that's okay. This is the first one. I'd like to introduce Ethan Peaty, our head coach in Arbroath. Is going to be delivering the talk. Yeah, hello, Ethan.
Very much. Thank you. So again, first things first, I do appreciate those who have made it to come out and taken the time out of their probably very busy Saturday morning. I'm sure we all had something going on. So today is, like I say, it's effectively going to be a pilot. We'll see how it goes on. We'll see how people interact and see how it goes. Today is going to be sort of like a one track in terms of what I'm going to talk about. In future ones, we are going to bring other people in, and there's going to be like other, people talking about recovery and menopause and mental health, and there is going to be much more going on. Today, unfortunately for you, it is just me. So, but next time we'll have other people. So today is going to be sort of nutrition. It's going to be based on fat loss that fits your life. This will fit in many aspects of someone you know, maybe in your own life, maybe you're coaching, you want to pass it on. Any of these things I'm more than willing to share off, I'm being here. And it's just kind of going into the idea that in the day of social media and all these other things, there's so many things going on. We don't know what's right, we don't know what's wrong. And here, I'm not saying mine is the only right thing either. This is just what I do. This is what I do with my clients. This is what I do for people that I want to help. And you should take what you want from it, and that will be fine. So, put animations on, it's going to take ages to explain. So basically, why people get stuck. The biggest thing I found is rarely it's a knowledge problem. People do have a basic understanding of how to lose fat, how to lose weight. Eat less, move more, general idea of that. It's the problem is people don't know how to stick to it. There's no consistency in what they're doing. There's no consistency in how they're doing it. They just do it for 2-3 days. I'm sure we've all done it. You've started something. I'm going to be consistent with this. A week goes by, you stop, and then you wonder what's going on. The biggest thing as well is we always look at weekends. So weekdays look good. You go really well. Everything's good. You've got the routine because you wake up at the same time. If you're at work, you go to work. You do the same thing. You come home, attend to the kids, attend to whoever's at home. So the structure's there. And then the weekend hits, and all of a sudden, that no longer exists. So that's a big thing that I see with a lot of people as well. It's not saying that it's wrong. You can do more at the weekend. You obviously can do more at the weekend as long as you've accounted for that. I call it, it's probably a negative terminology to say, but I call it damage control. You're making a damage control throughout the week to allow yourself to enjoy the weekend. But the difference between being 400 calories over your nutrition target versus being 4,000 calories over your nutrition target is very, very different. And a big thing as well is the portions. People think like, oh, I'm only eating good things, but they have a triple of the size of the portion. Just because you have a lot of healthy things, as we might say, on your plate, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to help you lose weight, because you could have a really nice, healthy salad, but if you've got a massive bowl of it, it's still going to be over your calories. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things that I see as well. Low protein. Now, you might know as a PT, we'll know all the time as a PT that protein. That's all you hear. It's you need to have protein, you need to have protein. And some people are like, why? What's the thing? I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm not trying to gain muscle, so why do I need it? Well, the ultimate reason is when you're trying to lose fat, you don't want to lose muscle. You're going to the gym, you're trying to maintain muscle, you're trying to build muscle mass, and not muscle mass in like big arms, big shoulders. I mean, maintain the right amount of muscle mass to feel healthy and feel physical. So we eat a lot of protein to minimize basically the atrophy of that muscle rather than having it. Plus, I can't remember, I think it's like, is it 4 calories per 1 gram of protein? So when people say like, oh, but it's going to make me gain loads of weight. Not really. Per 1 gram of protein, there's like 4 calories in it, so therefore it's not actually that high. It's just the fact that, as well, the digestion of your protein as well. I think there was a study done one time that for every 100 calories of protein that you digest, 40 calories of that gets burned off just digesting. So the reality is by the end of it, only actually 60 calories of that gets used. Those are not accurate. Do not quote me on that. But there's a study done on that it was like you burn off a certain percentage of protein literally just by digesting it through. So therefore, that's why we go for that as well. And again, it makes more satiating. So because of that digestive process, that means that you are going to feel fuller for longer. It's that satiation. So if you ever hear a PT or a coach talk about satiation, it's not a fancy word. It's just you feel full. You feel in a position where I feel like my gut has got more in it, so therefore I'm not hungry. Pile that along with some water, you're pretty much good to go for most of the day. This is the number one thing I see, especially what the clients that I have brought in and people that I've spoke to, is there's no plan. What are you having for breakfast tomorrow? Don't know. What are you having for lunch? Don't know. See what the kids are having, or I'll see what the husband's having. and you've made someone else, or you've let someone else make that choice, or let someone else dictate that, then ultimately it gets to the point where you're eating crap. You're eating nothing. There's no plan. And ultimately, it's a decision fatigue, because sometimes it might not be that you're not making the choices. It might be there's too many choices. Oh, I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this. I don't know which one to have. It's like, choose one, minimize it. I usually say, choose the 5 things you like, and then take out the best 3, and then rotate amongst those 3 things. Then ultimately, you're removing that decision fatigue, because we've all been there. Oh, what should I have for tea tonight? It's 5 o'clock, and then we're going to the wife. It's going to get a takeaway. Nobody can be arsed anymore. And then we've all done it. We've all been in that position where we want to go there. So a big thing that I always use is a 3-lever framework. So I'll be honest, it's actually kind of funny putting it into words, because I don't think I've ever actually spoke about it this way to my clients. But I know in my process, this is what I do. So the number 1 is, I say there's going to be a protein anchor. So a protein anchor could be anything from making sure you have an X amount of protein at whatever meal, and that's a rule that you set yourself every day. And it's basically just trying to control that hunger, minimize that sort of muscle loss, and ultimately, gain that maintenance. And portions without tracking, so that's a little bit misleading, I'm not going to lie. So tracking is important in the beginning. Track the first week, track the first 2 of the same meals that you're having, just so you know in your head that if I eat this same meal every day or every 3 days and rotate, I'm going to go into that later, it's not as boring as that. If I eat the same meal for 3 days and switch out, and I know exactly the amount of calories and protein in that, I no longer need to track that thing, because I've done the leverage in the first week or 2 weeks. So when I continue to do that, therefore, I no longer need to force it into that. And then again, like I say, it's the weekend plan. It's the stopping the spiral. I've had conversations recently about there is spiraling, and then there's out of control as well. A spiral goes down, you can climb back up, versus out of control is just, you just hit the bottom. Hit that rock bottom, and you're just trying to stop that spiral. And everybody knows, like I said, we've all had that moment at the weekend where you just go, whatever. And for whatever reason, people decide that when they have a takeaway, they have more than they think they should. It's okay to have, that one takeaway at the weekend, within minimizing what it is that you're having. But people go, well, I'm ordering from the Chinese takeaway anyway. I'm just going to order this and this and this and this. And then all of a sudden, it's like, you've ruined it. You've absolutely blown it out of proportion. So lever 1 is the protein anchor. Like I say, it's a brilliant way to control hunger and snacking, but it's also just a great way to think about protein first when you're making your meals, because in that way you're guaranteed. I get so many people that say, you've given me 120 grams, 150 grams of protein, I'm struggling to get that. But the reality is they're nowhere near the calorie limit, so therefore there should be no reason not to. But it's also because they've got no protein in their breakfast, they've got 20 grams of protein in their lunch, and tea time is full fat, and they wonder why they can't hit the protein. It doesn't mean you have to throw in protein bars and protein shakes all the time. It just means you need to look at, that's why the first initial stage of tracking your calories and tracking is important, because you can make a meal, it's healthy, but if it's not within your protein that you've said you're going to have, then you're not going to hit it. Again, it's that consistency of going through. And like I say, it gives you the meal structure. So if I say, what's for tea tonight? And my wife said I should go chicken. I know there's probably 3 or 4 things that we're having. I know there's not going to be much, because we're thinking about, for tea I'm having chicken. Not for tea, I want pasta tonight. Because then all of a sudden the plate's full of pasta, and there's probably no meat or no sort of protein on it, and that becomes the issue in that. And like I say, it helps you stay consistent when tracking, but also the most important thing is having sort of backup options as well. Is like, you can have a breakfast and have a bowl of cereal. That's not going to have a lot of protein in it. But if you have a little protein shake on the side of that, you've now just boosted it up, or a little protein yogurt on the side of that, because you get these protein yogurts that are like, the skier ones, like 90 calories, 80 calories with 15 grams of protein. You have your bowl of cereal, cool, have the yogurt on the side, then all of a sudden your protein's going high again. It's just not missing it. And like I say, we all know what protein is. We know that anything that effectively comes from an animal, so eggs, chicken, mince, tuna, Greek yogurt is one of my absolute staples, by the way. Every day, Greek yogurt will be involved. Cottage cheese is a hit or miss with a lot of people, but it's because it's similar to the yogurt, the way it gets strained through the milk and stuff like that. It's 100% a complete protein through like casein and stuff like that. And you get your protein shakes. Protein shakes are fine. It's not one of these things that you can't have. Too many people on the internet say that it's not real protein. It's like, well, it's still whey protein that came from an animal, so therefore it is real protein. It's not one of these things that's 100% artificial. Don't get me wrong, some of them out there are absolutely awful. Always read the ingredients and you'll find out what. Again, so portions without tracking. So basically, it's picking one rule and running with it for about 7 days to begin with, to make sure that you know, I can do this for long term. There's no point in saying, that's what I'm doing that one no matter what happens. 3 days have gone by and goodbye, it's gone. Pick one rule. Rules could be, I think I'll go into these later, but a rule could be like every meal has a minimum of 20 grams of protein. Or I'm going to drink a minimum of a litre of water before 12 p.m. I'm going to have this thing every night, like your evening snack is the same thing that you pre-make. It's having that rule set on that you know you're going to do. Always having sort of one carb portion per meal. Now, don't get funky and say, oh, but some veg have carbs in them. Yes, but it's a veg. We're not thinking about that as carbs. I mean, pasta, potatoes. There's no point in, at Christmas dinner when you have mashed potatoes and you have roast potatoes, and then you have all these other things, the pudding, what are they called, the Yorkshire puddings and all that. It's like, that's 3 carb sources. There's too many going on there. That's fine, it's because it's Christmas. But during your regular meals, just choose one and have it in a portion size and make sure that you know how much is going on. This is a big thing that I've picked up on recently. This is something I actually worked on with my own coach over the past couple of months, was making every single snack that you have as a protein snack. But it sounds boring. I know it sounds boring. But it minimizes the idea that, if you can find something, because the thing is if you can put Greek yogurt and then put some berries in it and put some chocolate in it, I'm getting my chocolate fix, but I'm also getting the high protein, I'm getting also all these other things from it. It doesn't have to be straight away, it's all protein snacks. It could be 50% of the snacks you have throughout the day is protein snacks. 50% of the snacks you have of the day are at least some form of high protein, low calorie. This is a big one that nobody ever gets, is stop at satisfied, not when you're full. There's a difference. There's like, when you get through a meal and you're like, but I've made it, and I've made it, or I've paid for this, I need to eat it all. That's what we get to. So you go like, I'm going to eat all this. That's fine. Just make less. You don't have to eat all of it because you've obviously made too much. You've obviously made a bigger portion than you need. So therefore, it's too much. So stopping at satisfied, not when you're stuffed. But it doesn't matter how stuffed you are, you're probably going to get cake anyway. So it's not going to matter how stuffed you are because it's not going to make you actually feel that full. And then lever-free is going to be the weekend plan. So I'll be honest, this isn't really a biggie for me. Like, I don't go out. I don't really do much. Like, my clients are my friends. I don't really speak to anyone else. Like, to them, it's me and the kids, the wife, and my clients. So that doesn't really relate to me too much. So I'm sure some people might have better ideas out there. But I do know that I don't have the structure of being at work at the weekend. Once a Saturday comes, I'm finished at like 1, 2 o'clock. That's me done for the weekend. Ice hockey on a Sunday. I might get a donut from Clark's Bakery when I'm out there. But other than that, nothing exciting happens for my weekend. Do you know what I mean? So protein earlier in the day, so you've got to preload your day. So first thing in the morning is at least 30 grams of protein. 20 to 30 grams of protein. 20 minimum, depending on how many meals you eat throughout the day. But 20 to 30 grams of protein minimum in the morning. And I don't mean like wake up 6 a.m., eat at 6:05. I just mean whenever you regularly have your breakfast, you have your breakfast. And it's trying not to always save calories. So I'm not one to say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I know from when back in the previous days when I used to cut fights, breakfast was the first thing I got cut, but that was usually because the kind of training I was doing in the morning, I didn't want to be sick because it's sick-inducing exercise I used to do. But it's that idea of going like, I'm going to just miss my breakfast and I'm just going to have a little salad at lunch and then I'll have half a portion at tea time because you thought that you were saving calories for the next day. But the reality is 11 p.m. hits and Domino's is getting called or something like that. You've been to the shop, you've grabbed loads of snacks. So when I say don't doesn't mean it's never going to be a thing that will work. It just means don't think that that's going to be your saving grace every single day by saving calories. There's ways that you can manipulate it based on the week, but not just like, I'm going to skip breakfast because it means I can eat a chocolate bar at night time. That's not the way to try and think of it. Have the chocolate bar at night time, make sure it's portioned out, and the next day you just account for it throughout all your meals. Rather than cutting one meal out in half, you can cut a little bit off a lunch, a little bit off a breakfast, a little bit off a dinner, and in that way you're still having all your meals, having all your protein. So that as well, so preloading your weekend is important so you know that you're going to feel full in the morning and the rest of the day you're not going to snack on as much. Deciding as well is to make sure you pick your limits before you go out. So again, I might not relate to this too much, but it might be like, tonight I'm only going to have, well, we all say one drink, don't we? Is that not a thing that people say? We're going to have one drink, and it's a total lie. It's being realistic as well is the most important part, but it's saying that tonight I'm going to go out, I'm going to have X amount of drinks, and I'm going to go to the takeaway. Know that you're doing it before it happens. That's the most important thing. I know I'm going to go to have a takeaway tonight after a drink, and that's okay, because then you know subconsciously, or at least consciously, you're thinking, I need to be a bit more careful about this. Whereas if you don't do that, and you just go, I'm just going to go out for a drink, next thing you know, I don't know what takeaways there's in Forfar, but in Arbroath, it's like next thing you know, you're at Kismet or the Best Kebab, and it's like there's a large kebab, and then there's like chips on the side, and there's all these other things that you've just blown out of proportion. They usually end up on the floor. I used to live next to that, and nobody ever finished it. They always got knocked on the floor, so it doesn't matter. Choosing your non-negotiables, this is super duper important. I've spoken a lot before on social media with my clients about minimum viable week. If you've been on my social media, you've seen that. It's about no matter how today goes, no matter how crap today could be, I'm still going to do this. Whether that be drink 2 liters of water, make sure that I get at least 80% of my protein that I said I'm going to get. It's just finding that non-negotiable that you make sure that you hit. We'll go into these later, but don't worry about it. And then reset's the most important one. Usually people wake up the next day, you're hungover, or you're feeling guilty because of the food that you've had, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, we decide to have more because we're like, wow, it's Sunday now, Monday starts tomorrow, I'm just going to keep going today, and tomorrow I'll restart, and then it spirals from there, and that's when it turns one day, turns into 3, into 5, into 7. It's just making sure that the next meal that you have from a weekend, the next thing that you do after a weekend, is just normal. It's not I'm going to then just go and starve myself for 3 days. It's going to just go back to normal, because you should have probably accounted for that throughout the week anyway, at some point, and somewhere. This is a hard one, because no matter what you do, you're going to do something you regret, and you're going to feel guilty about it. Everyone has this guilt. So I know it's easy for me to just, don't be guilty, it's fine, just don't do it. I have clients all the time, I'll be like, don't be guilty about it, and then all of a sudden there's 4 voice notes telling me how guilty they are about it. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? But it's one of those ones that, it happens multiple times. I hear it all the time, don't be guilty about it, we'll just move on to the next day, you'll be fine, and then all of a sudden, and it's more than one person's done it before she thinks I'm picking on her. And it's one of those things, it's okay to just not be guilty about it. Just be like, okay, that happened because I've allowed that to happen rather than it happened because I lost control. If it happens because you allowed it to happen, you've got saving grace. Next day, you'll probably be fine. If it happened because you've just been through a breakup and all these other things, we were speaking about that earlier on. It's the first time I've ever heard of that, the breakup diet. It's the first time I heard about that earlier. So we're going to go through one task. You see that you've got books in front of you, you've got pens in front of you. So basically, I'm not going to pick anyone out. If anyone would like to share, they can share. They don't have to, but I'm going to stop talking for a minute. Basically, I want you to write down your 2 biggest leaks. I should have chosen a better footword, better text. But either some of them that are on here or something else that you can think of. What are the 2 biggest holes and leaks right now in your lifestyle that you know that's going to be an issue? Night snacking, big portions, liquid calories, skipping meals. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to just sort of sit and think about what those things are for yourself, and people can willingly open up about it or not, but I'm going to be quiet now and let you do that. I'm going to get a drink. I don't want 7 either, remember, just 2. If you've got 2, I now want you to score a line through one of them. And that's the one that's, like, you're now deciding between these 2, which one's more important. That you think either A, you're basically choosing that either A, you need to change, or B, it's just something that right now you have less control over. So what I want you to do now is score a line through the one that's less important, or at least you can't fix right now. There's one that's going to be more important than the other. Just score a line through it, the less important one. So you've written two things down. Which one is out of those two is maybe less important right now? Yeah? One that you think, like, actually, this one has to change first over this one. You're now prioritizing. So you don't have to, but does anyone have any shares of their one that they've kept it around? Sweet control? Yeah. So this is important. So Tracy was saying there are sweet things. So I call them triggers. So my big thing is a wafer, right? See if a Kinder Bueno or a Kit Kat, something wafery like that, I eat one of them, the packet's gone. If I eat maybe like a caramel bar or something like that, I bet, no, one's enough, I'll have that, and I'm okay with that. But if it's like see a Beno, this is going any ideas now, nobody buy me any Benos because the packet's gone. With Kinder Benos and any kind of Kinder chocolate, like it's a trigger, I call them. Once you hit it, it's gone. You know, you open one bag of crisps and then all of a sudden it's 2 and 3 and they're triggers, things like that. So thank you very much. Is there any particular sweet? Okay, fair enough. Anyone else got any shares? Gummy sweets. Yeah. Yeah. So a big thing with that as well for both of them I've always picked up on is if you are so for me if I was to have a Kinder Bueno, because the way marketing works, the way like advertisements work, they want you to buy more, they want you to buy the big bag. So I could just go and buy one single Kinder Bueno bar, but they're like 99p for one, or I can get 5 for £2. So I'm going to buy the bloody 5. Do you know what I mean? But that's how they get it. So if you can justify a little bit that the money cost is not as bothersome for you. Obviously, if money is a bother for you, then get your partner to hide them or something like that, or they'll eat them anyway. But is making sure that you get the trigger. And then say with the Haribos and stuff like that, it would be maybe buy the little packets of them, but then they're not satisfying the little ones, are they? You need the big ones. Or just, I don't know, it's maybe portioning them into tubs and then only having that tub, but you still know in your brain that the rest of the tubs are there. But it's, portioning them into tubs or stuff like that. Anyone else? What on you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's kind of relates a little bit to none of these ladies will relate is what I call dad tax. I will have a little bit of what the kids have because if it's dad tax, we need to have it, and that's one thing that people forget about. Like it's a bit unrelated, but it's like what chefs and all that do is they don't realise that they'll stand and pick and eat food all day. Oh, well, I wonder why I'm gaining weight. It's like because you're standing there all day. I do it with dad tax. Those calories don't count, by the way. So whatever the kids have in the last chicken nugget or like a little bit of chocolate bar, you got to have some as dad tax. That's what we call it. Those calories don't count. I'm telling you now. Anyone else? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So things like that is like what we're saying. We're going to go into this later. Is like, 3 days is kind of what I say. You can meal plan for a week, but there's certain things that go off within a week. But then you're also stuck with the same thing for a week, unless you're prepping for a bodybuilding show or cutting for an athlete or for a sport. It's different. But if you're just losing weight, 3 days is what I say. Because usually things like Greek yogurt, usually things like cottage cheese, you get about 3 days out with them anyway, and then they go off. So it would be half preparing things. That's the thing I tell. So with my yogurts just now, I'll cut them into 3 portions of tubs. The granola's not gone in yet. The syrup's not gone in yet because that's just going to go soggy and disgusting anyway. But at least half the work is already done. So, like, how long does it take you to get up and put the toast on, take it out and spread it, versus if last night you pre-portioned some of it, all you need to now do is just pour some of the granola in and you're already halfway there. Do you know what I mean? So make yourself, you don't have to be 100% prepared. You could be 20% prepared, 30% prepared, 50% prepared. You have half of it done because all you know is the next day you now have half less that you need to do, basically. Anyone else? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. So it does get to the point sometimes where, like, when you get into things like that, you can't buy like 2 single slices of garlic bread. It comes in a big thing, pasta as well. It is then just that thing. Sometimes it does come down to the awful stages of just don't buy it in your regular shop because then you're not going to have it. If you know, right, next Friday the family's coming over and we're all having a meal, buy it. You're going to buy it. You have to enjoy yourselves, family meals, or whatever you're doing, or whatever's happening with it, or you choose yourself one night a fortnight. I'm going to have that one meal that I've not had in a while, because you know you can't just buy them individually and kind of pay it off that way. Sometimes, unfortunately, it does come to the just don't buy it. Like, it does happen, unfortunately, because like you don't want to waste that much. Because like the thing is, at least with sweets, if you buy a 5-pack of them, they'll last for a year, 2 years. You buy a garlic bread, you cut it in half. Once it's gone in 3 hours. Like, do you know what I mean? Or not 3 hours, but it's gone in a day. So therefore, you can't really keep going that way. So for that, I would just kind of say, unfortunately, yes, sometimes it's don't buy it, but maybe finding like, if you make your own garlic bread, you can use like lower fat garlic butter and stuff like that. You can do it differently. Even if you just buy the baguette, you get like little baguettes and then do that with yourself. Unfortunately, it's not as convenient, but you're going to cut the calories out a little bit that way. And pasta as well. What I would say is start thinking about, I'm going to have chicken tonight with a side of pasta. I'm going to have mince tonight with a side of. If you go, I'm having pasta tonight, the pasta is going to be the main focus, and the rest of it's not. Whereas if you go, I'm having chicken with a side of pasta, hopefully somewhere in your brain wires going, this is a chicken meal, not a pasta meal, and therefore, ideally. But sometimes it does come down to a mindset thing. It does come down to being like, I need to get in my head that this is the right way to do it and not doing it the way I've been doing it. And it's one of those things. Anyone else? No? That's okay. So, I think I'm there. So if anyone's needing a toilet right now, I'd advise, it's not going to be a long break, don't worry. We'll take a couple minutes of people jumping up straight away. If you need a toilet, quickly jump for a toilet. If you need to go and grab a refresh your coffees or anything like that, I would go and refresh them. So yeah, if you're needing the refreshers. Not me, it just went itself. It just went itself. It wasn't my idea. Was it me? It's not caught on. Control what? It's going to be when it's Hello, hello. Oh, that was loud. Right, guys, we'll get back into it. I appreciate your time so far. Hope you all managed to get a refill and nobody's opened the biscuits. George said it was a test, so I'll believe him. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go to show you actually how to build these plans. Now, hopefully by now, it's a little bit clear on kind of what we're idea and what we're doing, stuff like that, and the way that we're moving forward with it. But ultimately, the most important thing to remember, and this is a quote that I've learned a long time ago and I've stuck to it in many, many things I've done in life, is a good plan is only the one to. And a good plan might not be amazing, it might be a little bit boring, but it's the one that you can stick to. There's nothing worse than being on social media and seeing all these things about these people saying, like, I do this and this works really, really well for me, and this is how I do things great. But have you ever, I'm sure we've all tried a diet on the internet where we go, I'm going to try this and see what, and 3 days go by and you're right. Has anyone ever tried keto before? Like, nobody, you don't last very long. Like, you don't. Like, the reality is like, you'll go through it and you'll last a couple of weeks, you maybe lose a bit of weight, and then you realize you can no longer sustain it, and you stop. Therefore, it's not a plan that you can repeat. And you get all these different kinds of, like the Cambridge diet and all these silly 1,000 calorie diets that you will stick to for a certain amount of weeks, and then all of a sudden, it just doesn't. And that's the difference, is finding a good plan that you can do, and that's why I kind of built it into these sort of levers, as we spoke about, that will fit into your life. Like how me, as you know, a husband and 2 kids, versus someone whose kids are all growing up versus someone who has no kids, like, it's going to be different. The step-by-step rule is most likely going to be the same. How that is different. So obviously, the first thing you've always got to do when you're wanting to build this plan is you've already kind of figured out maybe what your one thing is that you've been kind of struggling with. When you're doing that, the first thing you've always got to do is find your protein anchor. And then you're going to pick your portion rule, and then you're going to pick your weekend, and then you're going to start to build it for real life. Real life's, when you do build for real life, like, I know it sounds gimmicky. I'll build it for your real life. But the reality is your real life. Because, you know, Tracy's real life, different to Alana's real life, different to Hash's real life, different to my real life. Everyone's real life's different. You know, some people might have a partner and 2 kids in a similar job, but the reality is the mentality and what they do physically and what their goals are, their body shape, everything's different. So it has to be built for you. So that's why when I coach a lot of clients and talk to a lot of people, I always say it's person first. I don't care how fat loss occurs. I don't care how these things happen. I care how it happens for them. You know what I mean? I care how their life fits out. I care how their life moves forward, and then ultimately that's how you apply that. So basically, step 1, like I say, is picking your protein plan. So what to do is you're going to choose 2 to 3 meals each day that you make protein the priority. So if you are going to be that person that decides they don't eat breakfast, like I say, I'm not saying you don't have to not eat breakfast, and I'll touch on that in a second, but basically making sure that you can say I have 2 high protein meals a day of a minimum 30 grams of protein. That's a step. Another step could be I'm going to have 3 meals a day that are going to be about 25 grams of protein, but ideally tea time is going to be, or dinner time is going to be a little higher than that. Or I'm going to have 2 meals that are going to be really high protein, lunch and dinner, and then I'm going to have a snack at night time that's going to be high in protein. It's just setting step-by-step rule. What I was saying there about breakfast is a bit off topic, but I think it's important to say is if you do ever skip breakfast, because some people feel sick in the morning, some people don't like it, lunch has to be super nutritional, super high in protein. Whatever nutrients and protein you've effectively missed out at breakfast, you have to somehow add that onto your lunch and dinner. It's not the point of skipping breakfast to lower your calories. That's fine, but you still need to get that protein in somewhere. You still need, because people say, I don't eat breakfast, so I struggle to hit my protein. It's like, well, that's 30 grams of protein you could have had. And it doesn't mean it has to be a big meal and 500 calories. It could just be easily something like a banana and a 20-gram protein shake. There's a simple breakfast. Boring. Yep. So the recommended protein amount per day is, it goes per body weight. So it goes per body weight, it goes per activity levels as well. So to answer that question's hard because your body weight, I'm not going to ask you, don't worry. You don't know your body weight, we don't know your these things. So on average, you're looking at about 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, but you might get per gram per kilogram. Is that what I said? Yeah, per gram per kilogram, not per kilogram per gram. Don't do that. it's about 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, but that depends on your goals. If you're someone who's a bodybuilder, you might be up at like 2.2 grams of protein per gram for kilograms. If you're someone who's 5'1", 45 kilos, and is basically just trying to go to the gym twice a week, you might be more at that 1.2 kind of level. So to answer your question, how many grams of protein do we need? It's very subject or objective, I guess, depending on your body. So, but to use that as a rule, 1.2 to 1.6, find where you are in terms of like how much you're trying to do. If you're looking to maintain a bit more muscle mass and you're generally live an active lifestyle, push it a little bit higher. And I'm not going to lie, you will be surprised at how much it actually is meant to be, because people think like, yeah, 90 grams of protein is what they say in the studies is like, in order for a human to function, you need about 70 to 80 grams of protein per day. That would be if you were in a coma. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it would be if you were doing nothing. But if you're like, I work every day, I'm very active, I go to the gym 3 times a week, I do a fitness class on a Saturday morning and do all these things, you will be at a higher end. So like, I can only imagine as a total guesstimate, you'd probably be anywhere between somewhere about 120 to 160. But again, it's not bang on accurate. And an important thing as well is days off of gym and quieter days, within 20%. You're not going to be expected to hit that high amount a day where you're generally lower, no activities being done, you know, a low maintenance day, just still be within 20% of it. And another important thing is people go, what happens if I go over my protein? Is that going to turn into fat? No. The only way you'll ever use protein for energy is when you've exhausted all your carbs, exhausted all your fats, exhausted all your calories, and then protein will become an energy source. That happens when you're dying dehydrated in a desert and you've got nothing left on your body. Like, you're going to get to, you know, you get these guys that do these ultra marathons that last like 4 days of running, but they're fueling anyway, so it doesn't matter. So, hope that answers your question. Yeah, good. And then step 2 is picking your portion plan. So it's using one simple rule for every. I'm not saying it has to be the same at every meal, but in terms of all my lunches have this rule, all my dinners have this rule, all my breakfasts have this rule. So it could be like half a plate of fruit and veg, like, or half a plate of veg. And then, what is that? The Eat Well plate, half a plate of veg, a quarter of protein, a quarter of carbs. You can live by that, that's great. People talk about like a fistful of protein, you know, things like that. And I actually don't like that kind of portion size, because it's like, you're not just going to pick up your food and go, it's a fistful, and then put it back on your plate. Do you know what I mean? One clear protein source, this is my most important one. I always kind of like promote a lot, is like, just like I said before, choose your protein first. And sensible carb options. So as people have said, they've had carb issues, is choosing like, to have whole wheat pasta and it's only 20 grams of it. It's nothing to do with that at all. It's just you're not dousing it in oil and doing all these crazy things that just all of a sudden make it really high in calories. Busy. It's all right. And also, this is a big one. I know I keep talking about these 3 things, but I'm kind of just trying to spout them in different ways, but also trying to help people understand them in different variations as well. So picking your weekend plan, this is the thing I said, is deciding in advance what staying on track looks like. So just because someone told you that you need to have X amount of calories and X amount of protein, and that's what someone on the internet told you, and unless it's your coach, unless it's like someone that you've taken nutrition advice off from professionally, then listen to them, obviously. But if it's someone that you've just, some 21-year-old boy on Instagram who's got a massive six-pack has told you that you as a 40-year-old lady, they don't know. They know about themselves at 21-year-old, they don't know about that. So you don't have to look at that. It's looking at what staying on track looks like for you. If staying on track looks like for you having 1 chocolate bar instead of a whole packet, if it looks like having half a bag of Haribos and a whole bag of Haribos, that's what on track looks like. Having your own homemade garlic bread where it's in half rather than a whole one, that's what it looks like for you. It's just making sure that you're doing everything that you can to stay on that minimum sort of viable week. Protein. Please go back. It's all right. Other examples as well could be protein at your first 2 meals, as I've said before, creating a drink limit. This is a big one as well. I know a lot of people after the weekend probably don't want to go for a walk the next morning, but that's going to be great for you mentally, physically. It's going to help your hangover as well a little bit. Depending on the weather, I suppose. But again, it's just the next meal is very normal. And this part is important. It's touched a little bit on it earlier, is if you have a meal, it's not spiraling out. It's just, it's one meal and not a spiral. You go, right, I'm going to have this thing, I'm going to have this drink, I'm going to have this snack. That's it. It doesn't have to be the next one, the next one, the next one, it goes the week. Now you can go. So, on to the next task again already. I'm going to get as involved as I can. So basically, we're going to try and get you, you're not choosing all these are just some examples, by the way, is pick one that is the easiest version that you can do for 7 days. So in a protein rule, it could be 2 meals per day with at least 35 grams of protein per meal, or plus, and 3 meals with at least 30 grams of protein, maybe having a shake to back up. The portion rule is using that plate rule at dinner, like having the half with the protein and the veg, one carb portion and protein-based snacks, and having that weekend rule as well. So what I want you to quickly do is set, these are just examples. If you know something that you'd like, then write your own thing down. But it's basically, what's your protein rule, stick to for 7 days, or can stick to for 7 days, what's your portion rule, and what's your weekend rule. So I'm going to get you to sort of jot down some ideas again, and we'll see if anyone's saying anything. And if you still don't understand, just shout me over and I'll come to you. Right, have we all had something to write down? I know this is something as well that right now you might be very guesstimate. It might be light. Like this might be something that you do have to go away if you are willing to take away this information. You are probably going to have to go away and be, actually, I need to sit and think about this a little bit more. That's okay if you have a very basic general idea, because I'm not expecting you to just be here for 2 minutes and go, I know what I'm doing now. Like you are going to have to go away and sit and think, actually, what does my life look like? You might have to sit down and go, right, here's my diary, here's the hours I have available, here's what I can do, here's what I can process, versus just going, yeah, I'm going to do that. Because if you just sit there and go, yeah, I'm going to do that, the reality of that actually fitting your life and fitting what you want to do might not be what it's going to be. It's okay to run it. That's why I say 7 days. A 7-day plan. If you can run with it for 7 days, I know people say, well, it's like 21 days build a habit or something. I know that's the case. But my If you can't even do it for 7 days, you ain't bloody doing it for 21 days. So, like, do you know what I mean? And the idea is you're learning every day. It's Monday to Sunday. So Monday's the first day of the week. You know, the weekend hits, you finish work, so you're basically allowing yourself to run this plan through all the days of the week that allows different things to happen. And I know people have off weeks and it might not work, you just do it again for the next week. So anyone got any that we'll start with the protein only first. So anyone got any protein rules that either A, they already might do, or B, they've kind of read and learned about that they're going to try? Yeah? Yep. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Yeah? So that's a big thing Tracy was saying there, is that she actually already does like a sort of meal rotation. We're going to speak a little bit more about that later as well, that there's only 2 choices that Tracy will have, and from there she will rotate between them, and it removes a lot of decisions. It removes a lot of stuff. If you know you like it, you know that's something you can enjoy. So it's going to be, what was the first one? Milk bread. Milk bread and scrambled egg, and then the second one's like was it a porridge? A porridge with a lack of protein. You have that conversation. And a porridge. So it's basically choosing 2 things that she knows that she likes. Day 1 she'll do this. Day 2 she'll do this. You can do that for 2 days. I'll do it for 2 days of this, 2 days of that, depending on how you want to portion out for your life. Any other proteins examples? Anyone that's doing or has thought of? Yeah. So having 4 meals a day instead of 3, and so on average, how much protein would you put per meal? So you'll have about 25 to 30 grams of protein each meal. And that's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be 3 meals. It could be 4 meals. People can break it down into really small 5 meals. Again, that's why it has to fit for you. Like, I know for me, I can't fit 4 meals in. I'd rather have and then something small in the evening rather than having that's fine. You can fit the 4 meals in. People, I couldn't do 5 meals at all. But because you struggle to get in one go. And what would usually just be you have X amount of protein per meal minimum. Would you always think about it that way? Yeah, that's fine. Anyone else? Yeah. 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 It is what it is. Yeah. So perfect. So like Kelly was saying, is like if you can't eat in the morning, you are gonna skip breakfast. We literally touched on it earlier. Is just double up. So rather than having 2 eggs, she'll have 3 eggs at lunchtime, and it kind of allows that satiation, as we say, throughout the rest of the day. And it's that rule of going, if I don't, that I have to then have X amount of protein more later on. If you are conscious about calories, there's lower calorie options that you can have. Anyone else? No, that's okay. And then what about like portion rules? Does anybody have any portion rules that A, they've already done, or B, they've kind of thought about and read today that they're going to add? So using pasta bowls to weigh your food out rather than the actual like a plate. Oh, right, okay. It looks nicer than a pasta bowl. Of course. But what about just, I guess, I know it can become a bit tedious in the long term, but it's just weighing it out and then putting it in the pasta bowl, or weighing it out before you put it in. You can weigh it dry. Yeah, you can weigh it dry and stuff like that as well. And like, what is it, 75 grams is like an average portion dry or something like that. So you could weigh it dry. You haven't messed any dishes up in it. I usually weigh it in the colander, because in the colander is going to get wet later anyway, isn't it? Yeah, you don't have. That's why I said before is like you only need to do these things for a couple. If you're not wanting to do it long term, to get your head into it, what I tell people is those that have gone beyond long term, and they no longer want to count calories or they don't need to count calories. Like every now and again, if things start to drop a little bit, I just go count for a week, and it kind of just sort of reframes you. Again, oh yeah, that's what it looks like. Because then you start to forget that. Oh yeah, I know what 40 grams of protein looks like and 75 grams of pasta. And then 3 months have gone by, and I ask you to wait, and you're like, I wasn't doing that. I was a lot more than that. Like, do you know what I mean? So it could be changing the plate, and that's a really good thing. Is just that perception of going from a bowl to a plate, and you understand the difference in it. So no, that's good.
Sometimes I get a bit obsessed when I start weighing stuff all the days. I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm the opposite from these two because I weigh my stuff even in salads. So when I'm on a big salad bowl, I know exactly how much is in my salad. And I actually put it down in the book. So I know exactly. So I know that a half packet of this is going to be,
Yeah.
you know, a half packet of rocket is going to be so many calories. And so I know when I have my salad, that's part of the calorie count.
Yeah. So that's good because I've kind of said that before to some people that when people use MyFitnessPal, people go, when I make a meal, I don't like putting this ingredient and this ingredient. And this. You can make a meal on it. So what you do is after the 7 days or whatever of you, or the couple of times you've tried it, if you've weighed it out a few times and you know what that looks like and you're happy with it, once you make the whole ingredients on MyFitnessPal once, you can add it as a meal. So the next time you do it, as long as your measurements are correct, the calories, like you say, you've just done it a manual, it's the same thing, it's already written down. So you know that 40 grams is this much. Because obviously packets only tell you what 100 grams are half the time, or sometimes they give you the portion. But if you're having 60 grams or 120 grams, well, what is that? Again, the app does it for you, but if you want to do it manually, like it's the exact same thing. You're literally just writing down what this is, so you know that as soon as you weigh it out, it's got this amount of calories in it, and you can weigh it that way, and that's good. Anyone else on portions? No? It's okay? Right, this is going to be where it gets interesting. People are going to tell me about their real life, so what goes on. Unless everyone's boring like me and doesn't actually do anything at the weekends. What about weekends? What have people either A, already been doing to plan things out, or B, kind of thought about today? I'm going to take that always you're as boring as me.
I need to stick to 2 glasses of wine.
Yep,
And have that every day for a
it's fine.
Not 3.
What happens when you have free?
I actually didn't have it. No mention of it. I'm having another.
So, but yeah,
Yeah, I need to stick to 2 because actually, if I have 2 and I have it with food, I sleep fine. But if I have it later on at night, it just wakes me up before I go to the morning sweating, and I need to get through that. But
yeah.
I just know myself. If I can just have 2, I'm absolutely fine. But more than that, it just wrecks it.
That's good. So basically just limiting yourself, right? You're basically preloading yourself. You're only going to have this much. And we know, I don't know, but it's a lie a lot of times that we tell ourselves. But if it's something that you stick to over and over and over again, and what you later on in the sleep and stuff like that, you actually feel so much better for it because you have the 2 with a meal. Was that what you said? You have 2 with a meal, and you feel so much better for it. Yeah. If it ruins your sleep, sometimes, like you say, moment where you just go for it. In the moment, it's cool, but later on, you're like, oh, now I'm not sleeping, and now my next day's ruined. So I've not only have I ruined my night, I've now ruined my next day. You know, if you've got a partner and kids at home, you're probably going to ruin their day, and like it just spirals onwards from that. Do you know what I mean? Anyone else on the weekends? Nothing exciting, because I don't have anything to share about. Like I say, I'm not going to the ice hockey. I'm staying home with the kids. There's like that changes really. Nope, that's okay. So here's a big thing. Is just I wanted to just kind of throw out there are some failure points, a little bit of troubleshooting, I guess, in what the problem is and how I would fix it. Now, I want you to know that this isn't the only way you can fix it, but generally it's the best way. So a big problem I see a lot is all or nothing. We're kind of speaking about that, you know, hitting that moment where you just go, I'm going to go for it. Or you do it where actually I'm just going to skip my breakfast, I'm going to skip my snack in the afternoon, I'm going to skip my lunch, have a little bit of thing at night time, and that's kind of it. Because either way, both of those end up in the same path. You end up in a position where you don't want to be. You end up in a position where you're completely far from what your goals were. So it's just remembering that one bad meal isn't one bad week doesn't have to be a bad month, and one bad month doesn't have to be a bad year. Because don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you can't have a bad week, because at the end of the day, there's so many variables in life that you can't control. You know, people get ill, and you know, kids get ill, and people fall over and hurt themselves. Silly things, anything you can think of that will throw you off. You know, you get made redundant at work, or there's so many things that can happen in life that you have zero control over. So yes, I'm not saying one bad day doesn't turn into a bad week. You can't control those things. Whereas if you can control your mind, I'm a big believer in there's a lot in your mind that you can control. Like I say that you can't control if you have, I know it's getting a bit doom now, but you can't control if you have a heart attack. You can't control if you have a brain injury. You can't control any of these. You can control what you're thinking. And I know if you're in the mental health side of things, we are going to bring people in a future talk, by the way, to talk a lot about this. Just to touch on it, is we get a lot of positions where people go, oh, I just can't help it, I just can't help it. It's like, maybe you can't, but have you tried anything to help it? And they go, not really, it just happens. I go, well, so you've not put it then, you've just let it happen. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's having other people in your life, like support is a great thing as well. People being like this is the reason why people get a coach, is for them to be like, what are you playing at? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Like, why are you doing that? And not being afraid to say, like, stop being stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like, and sometimes it's as simple as that, sometimes it's not, because you got to read the room sometimes. You don't want to tell someone they're being stupid and then there are other things are going on. Do you know what I mean? So, but it's just, it doesn't have to turn into the next and into the next. I said earlier on, spiral a little bit, and then you pick yourself back up. Where out of control is just a straight, imagine a fireman going down a pipe like that. And just go right down versus going down where it was like, what are they called? What are the big slides called? Helter-skelters, yes. You know, it's going down a helter-skelter where you can kind of grab on and climb back up again versus just going down a fire pole where you just crash to the ground. No mats, nothing. You just hit the bottom. Do you know what I mean? Another problem I see is saving calories all day. Again, this is, would it be subjective or objective? I guess subjective. That reasons for some people. I know when I have had to cut weight for a fight, I've had to save my calories because I need to weigh in that morning, and I don't really want to put any more weight on until I weigh in, and I want to wait till closer to a time period for the fight so I can eat the calories that give me the energy. Some of them could also be people who are doing a weigh-in. Oh, I'm not going to weigh until 10 today, so you might cut off beyond that until there. But it's not just saving calories all day, every day. So I know someone who I actually know very close who literally eats zero all day, doesn't drink any water until about 8 p.m. at night, and then just 3 meals worth of food in one go back to back. It's not good, because they think they're losing weight that way, but they're not. So, and it's just making sure, again, what we spoke about, is having that protein earlier in the day, is that satiation of being able to digest the food a little bit easier, and being able to, or digest the food longer, sorry, and being able to just put yourself in a position where, A, you're maintaining muscle mass, and you're slowing down any kind of atrophy if you're not really lifting weights. Always lift weights, always lift weights. Doesn't have to be heavy weights, you're not a bodybuilder, but always lift weights. And again, no plan is a big thing we spoke about. People just, I'll see what happens. I wonder what's for tea tonight, and it's like, I'm sure we've all done it. What's in the cupboard? And then nothing's in the cupboard, you have a takeaway and whatever. You will get days where you've been so busy, you haven't had a chance to get to the shop yet, so there will be moments it's okay. Actually, it's either have nothing, which is also not great, like I say, or you might have that one extra little treat, but it's not really a treat, it's because you've had a chance to get out. And that's the fix for that, is just decide your rules. Decide what's happening for the day, preload it. Think ahead of time what you're going to do. Again, things happen, you can't control it, but you've at least got that base plan. And try not to do too many of these things at once. This is why earlier on I said choose the 2 that fit most, score out the one you have less control over, and only focus on that. Because as soon as you start doing, you know, I'm sure in our jobs we all have task lists, and you're trying to do 3 things at once, none of them get finished. You know, none of them get done. Finish the one thing, you do the next. So run it for 7 days. If it works, that's now part of your life. Now probably run it for about 30 days, and then consider adding another thing on. And then consider adding another thing on once they've become a regular part of your life. So hopefully, your 3 take-homes, if you do nothing today, and you're like, this has been okay, I appreciate you all coming on, by the way, but if you just kind of leave today and you're kind of, oh, that was okay, I kind of knew all that, or I'm not too sure how to put that in practice, your minimum should be at least an anchor protein, something of at least 35 grams of protein plus per meal. That's a minimum I would expect someone to do. It might be different for you, it might not be. Use one portion rule at your worst meal. If you know that tonight we didn't get a chance to get to the shop, we've only got X, Y, and Z, it doesn't mean you have to have the whole garlic bread or a whole plate of pasta. You can still have it, you just have to minimize it and pack it out with other things like veg and stuff like that. And then the last thing is deciding your weekend before it arrives. So if you know, I'm going out this weekend, again, choose your friends wisely at certain point, because some people will be bad influence. But it's like, 2 glasses of wine with the meal instead of having 6 without the meal and all these things. It's just making sure you make your decision before it arrives. So, going to plug a little thing for you. If you've got your phone on, you can scan this QR code. It's basically going to be a document that will help you rotate your meals. There will be lots of things in there that will A, show you how to rotate it, B, like meals and stuff like that you can do. It's repeatable, helps you make easier decisions, it's more structure, less thinking, and more consistency. I am being a pain though, and well, actually put the email address in. But don't worry about it, nothing's going to happen, So basically, it just helps me track it. So basically, within that, you'll see, it's just a very basic document, it's not a big fancy thing, and within it, it's basically going to let you, show you which meal rotation is going to be your best. Is it going to be 3 days? Is it going to be 5 days? Is it going to be every day? What meals you could use for those days as well. Have we all, anyone that wanted that, have you all scanned a hold of that? Yeah, that's fine. Good. Right, I'll let these. Oh, you've gone back. Oh, George, go back. I thought you already had it. Sorry. Did you get it? Yeah. Perfect. Right, I'll let those get that scanned and dealt with that first. He's all got it down, yeah? Perfect. Yeah, you can deal with that in a minute, that's fine. Right, so, we've already kind of done interactions and some people have already had questions, but does anyone else at all about anything we've spoke about, anything otherwise, nutrition, anything otherwise, about anything? Yes? Well, so for fiber, so how much fiber do you need to have? So it's one of these things that when I go in with my clients, I always talk about calories and protein. And I'm not saying these other things don't matter, but generally, if you're making well choices on your calories and your protein, I always say, and I know a lot of people disagree with this, but I've never had an issue, and my clients have never had an issue. I don't get clients usually to track carbs, fiber, fats, or anything like that, because if you're eating within your limit and you're eating your calories within your target and calories within, generally, I would say 60% of the time, the rest of it is exactly where it needs to be. But to answer your question, I can't remember exactly how much it is per gram of body weight, but I think for me, what am I, 82 kg? I know mine is about 27 grams of fiber a day or something like that, so depending on your weight. But again, never thought the conversation was going to go this way. It depends on movements, it depends on what's happening internally. Do you take probiotics? Do you take lots of things that have got probiotics in it? So I would say anywhere between sort of that 15 to 30 grams. I know it's quite a wide range, but what I will say is your fiber 1 bars don't count. Your protein bars don't count because they're all polyols. If you know what a polyol is, it's a sugar alcohol, an alcohol sugar. Sugar alcohol, yeah, it's a sugar alcohol. So when you get into your polyols, they just ferment in your gut. I've actually had this in protein bars. I'll let your imagination wonder why. Because of a reason, because the polyols that you get in protein bars, I found one that was 15 grams of protein per bar, and I was like, that's pretty amazing. And like 2 months to 3 months, okay, I'm stopping this. Do you know what I mean? So you'd mentioned earlier about your chia seeds and stuff like that, flax seeds, all those things are your best kind of fibers you can get. Hemp seeds as well, yeah. Hemp seeds as well. Any of these kind of seeds that you can get, any kind of like, and your carb sources do have general good fiber in it. Like, your bread has fiber in it, your pasta has fiber in it. They're better, but any of these kind of like sort of supplemented fiber, unless it's psyllium husk. Psyllium husk's a really good one, but that's not so much an increase in fiber. It's more of it's like it congests everything together a little bit easier. Again, I'll let your imagination run wild. I never thought the conversation was going to here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So it's one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about is your gut and brain are connected, I say. They're in one. So however you treat your gut and your brain, like they go together in that sense that if you're treating your gut really bad, it can affect you a little bit mentally, if you know, and vice versa. It's not as connected, not meaning there's literally a line connecting them together, but in your system it kind of works that way. Another important thing about fiber is if you are eating high, you have to drink water. The last thing you want to be doing is eating a high fiber diet and not drinking water, because it's now just going to get stuck. It's just going to, everything's going to sort of ferment together, or not ferment together, come back together and not go well. So yeah, but if you're getting these like fiber 1 bars, they're fermenting fibers, they're fake fibers. It's like telling someone to eat protein, but it's like pea protein or something like that, and it's not a complete protein, so therefore you're not going to get your amino acids and stuff like that. But that's still better than eating these fibers. So fiber, yeah, great question. How much fiber should you be eating? Again, I'm not going to lie, I can't remember what it was per kilogram, but I know I get about 25 to 30. I'm about 82 kgs, and I have some issues. So drink water. If you're having a high fiber diet and you've been told by your doctors and stuff like that to have a high fiber, you have to be drinking water, because it's just going to get congested anyway. Psyllium husk is the only. Do you know about psyllium husk? With your supplements and stuff like that. Yeah. Holland Barrett. You just get it in Holland Barrett, yeah. It's usually a powder format. People literally just put it in a water and just drink it through. Yeah, you'll get it in all these webs. So psyllium husk is a really big one. It's not so much that it creates a high fiber, it just helps sort of compact everything together in your gut to make it a bit more free moving. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Of course, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's a big binder. Yeah, so it'll keep everything together and it'll compact it all together. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not too creative when it comes to making meals, so unfortunately, mine's is boring. Greek yogurt, some chicken here and there. It's what works for me. Do you know what I mean? But no, it's good. Anyone else got any questions? Well, hopefully that answered your question. At least semi answered your question. That's fine. Anyone else got any questions about anything in general? Anything you'd like to know? You don't have to have a question. Hopefully, I'm hoping that means I've answered your questions, as in throughout the talk in general. I think there's a last stage, but it's just me being a little bit pushy. If you go to the next one, George, if you do have any questions, you can go on Instagram and ask me. It's good to plug that in. It's just anything in general. I do work a lot more with like parents and stuff like that, or people that have got generally really busy lifestyles, and it's helping you put everything you've heard today. At some point when you come in, you might not get all of it in your program. Like you'll know yourself, like you don't get all of that. It will be what you need. But these are all general things that I will advise into your things, into your program. But if you have any more questions after today, do not bother if you need to message me. Regret saying this sometimes, but I like questions. If you have, it means you care. That's the number one thing I always say as a PT and just as a sort of motivator of life, I should say. I don't know. Questions are good because questions mean you care. Questions mean that you want to learn, and question means that you want to know more. There's too many clients I've had that have come in. Let me rephrase that. I've had too many athletes that have come in and they do not care. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it, and they don't care why or how. They just want to do it. You can tell them anything and they'll do it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I like people go, but why do you want me to do that? Well, actually, it's because of X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. But yeah. So I think that is the last slide. If it's not going anywhere, that should be the last slide. Yeah, it is. So, like I say, I appreciate it's all coming out. I don't know if George is going to want to say anything at the end or anything like that. That's fine. So I do appreciate it's all coming out. What I'm hoping to do in future, or what we're hoping to do in future, I apologise, is we're going to bring in some guests. So if you know anyone that you would like to hear from, that's kind of we're not asking like Chris Williamson or anything like that to come in. You know what I mean? We're not asking anyone. But he's a big podcaster, influencer, and stuff like that. But a good one. He's one of those. He's relevant to the topic just now with the Manosphere, that new Louis Theroux thing. He's one of the good ones that you won't see on that. But we're not going to expect anyone like that. There'll be like, if there's any. Absolutely, you'll see. Alana and Natasha are definitely coming on, and they're doing a talk one of these days. So both of them are coming in one of these days, and we'll make sure they're talking about something. 5 minutes, even 10 minutes. Just come up and say your name and say bye, something. I've spoke to a couple of other PTs. One was talking about, like I said, about mental health. Another one I've spoke to about who's not long past her like menopause and then pre and postnatal and all these things. Like I promise I'm not trying to just gain brownie points because there's all ladies here, but a big thing that I don't think spoken about enough is perimenopausal, menopausal, endometriosis, PCOS, all these kind of things. These are things that I never got taught in college or any of my education. I've had to, anyone that's ever came to, because then I also obviously don't have to go through it, so I don't know. I've had to go out of my way every single time, so we'll get someone in for that. We'll possibly have Christine come in and talk about like recovery, training around injuries, things like that. Yeah, if there's any, is there anything else you would like to listen to here? Any topic specifically that breaches more into the fat loss and goes more into depth on these things? Anything that's about sleep, recovery, training-wise, training frequencies? Is there anything that you would like to hear? Yeah. Yeah. But I do, yeah, that's great. I think I'll be honest with you again. I promise I'm not trying to get in the brain. It was the first thing I thought about when I said I wanted to talk about more was going to be going into sort of 40 plus women who are going through these menopause and all these other. I think PCOS is a thing that I didn't even know what it was when I first. A client was like, "I've got PCOS." I don't. I was like, you know what I mean? So it's good. That's good, yeah. So like I say, we'll probably get these written down at some point. Like George has a list, I've got a list, and then we'll definitely get a list of different things. But I think the idea for myself is I don't want to bore you every time and it's just me talking. I don't want to bore you. Kelly gets enough of that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think no one can reinvent the wheel anymore. I feel like we are in a position where everything's the same, but like you say, it's how you adjust the perspective or adjust the idea of it. Like, and it makes it different. Like, do you know what I mean? That's the idea. Is like there is nothing that we can reinvent that's never been done, but you can make it a way that it's specific to that type of person, specific to that type of person, and it becomes. That's why I say person first is always the most important thing. But yeah, like I say, so we'll have a look at some of these things, and if you have any other ideas, you can just give us a shout. I can't think of any other topics off my head because I was thinking more based on what, because the people that come in, I'd want that to be their specialty. I don't want them to have just, you know what I mean, like there's a thing is Nikki that's just not long done the qualification, whether I can get some of these guys to come in and be, she has now a qualification within menopausal women, so it's like, you know, it's kind of, and obviously we can easily link it that you can both come in and kind of do something in that sense, like there's no harm with that at all, and it's also just kind of finding anyone else that we can do. But my aim is to get all these PTs involved and they talk about something, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter, do it together. Remember like you were in school and you would do like joint projects and you could do it that way, and we can kind of go for that. But if you don't have any other questions, don't have any other ideas, I'm happy enough for you to take the biscuits home. Thank you very much.